Want to know what the top 12 red flag breadcrumbing texts are? If you've ever doubted your ability to sift through all the noise of online dating, particularly when confronted with bizarre text message behavior, you are going to want to stick around for this video. We are going to discuss a definition for breadcrumbing, the difference between breadcrumbing and ghosting, appropriate text messaging behavior, and what to look out for. By the end of this video, you will have the tools at your disposal to discern genuine, high-quality partners from people that just want to play games or live in a fantasy world, be able to define 3 distinct phases of breadcrumbing so you can know exactly where you stand with a partner, and you will be able to recognize 12 specific red flag text messages, saving you a ton of time, energy, and heartache that would otherwise be spent on ineligible partners. But before we dive in, if you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Briana MacWilliam, and I am a licensed and board-certified creative arts therapist with more than 15 years in the field, helping adults struggling with insecure attachment go from self-doubting to self-sovereign so they can attract the soul-shaking, passionate partnerships that they want. And I do this using a psycho-spiritual approach to creative arts interventions, which I call the MacWilliam method. The content on my YouTube channel is derived from my online courses, which you can learn more about through the link in the caption of this video. If you would like to learn more about your attachment style, you can take the 4-question quiz. If you like what you see in here and you want to learn more, make sure you like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. I put out videos once a week, and I wouldn't want you to miss out. Okay, so let's start off our discussion by defining the term breadcrumbing and holding it in comparison to the behavior of someone who shows up with genuine interest. Now, breadcrumbing amounts to the act of leading someone on. Signs of breadcrumbing include demonstrating inconsistent interest and engagement, coming on strong in the beginning, like love bombing, then fizzling into sporadic response times, hot and cold language and emotional content, avoiding making plans to connect on the phone or in person, or making those plans and then canceling them or just not showing up. Generally making you feel confused and doubting about the degree of interest that they have in you, either way. Now, here are some signs of genuine interest. If someone has genuine interest, they will go at a steady pace in the beginning because they want to get to know you on a real level. They'll be consistent in their responses to you and not let 24 hours go by without a cordial response. The language they use and the degree of emotional investment will evolve at a steady pace and be somewhat reserved until you have made plans to meet in person or talk over the phone. They will appear interested and eager to meet you in real life, and they will make it a priority to schedule a date and follow through with it. So let's talk about breadcrumbing and ghosting. How does breadcrumbing compare to ghosting? Well, relationship expert Esther Perel suggests that we consider breadcrumbing behavior along a spectrum that also includes such things as simmering and icing, as well as ghosting. Altogether, these really describe the developmental stages of breadcrumbing behavior. So simmering is basically when you let someone simmer on the back burner. You might say things like, I'd love to see you, but I'm going to be busy this week, so why don't we just check in with each other next week? Basically, it's a feeling like, I have nothing to give you, but I don't want you to disappear either, so I'll hold you at a comfortable distance and I'll let you simmer. Now, icing describes a greater degree of distance and uncertainty without cutting the cord. It's like saying, look, it's not a good moment for me to be in a relationship at this point, but I like you, so I'm not going to be able to meet you where you're at. Maybe we should check in with each other in a few months. Now, ghosting is when someone completely terminates the relationship by ending communications abruptly and without any explanation. Now, overall, I have a tendency to think that simmering and icing just indicate that someone is in a state of doubt or ambivalence about relationships. And that doesn't necessarily make them a bad person. But they do have a responsibility to be honest about their ambivalence when someone is asking for more time and intimacy, and to let that person go when it's clear that they want different things. Folks that are not honest about their ambivalence and do not inhabit their integrity tend to send increasingly muddy mixed signals, which keeps a person hanging on the edge of their seat. Are they doing this to intentionally hurt you? Not always. Sometimes they are just really confused and therefore unwilling to commit themselves to anything either way. But for individuals that do this intentionally, realize how deep the wounds must be for them to feel that this is the only way to connect with someone, and then just let them go. So let's look at 12 specific red flag text messages that could lead to breadcrumbing. The first one is unsolicited, sexually explicit text messages. Now, there are varying degrees of this. It's one thing if someone texts you and asks you what you're doing and you're saying, "I'm in bed." Maybe they respond with, "Oh, what are you wearing?" or "Send me a pic." Now, this is relatively benign and you can establish your boundaries pretty quickly in a way that shows that you are interested, but not right now. So, for example, you might reply with something like, "Ooh, that's pretty smooth. Hang in there and try me again after a few more dates, winky face." Or, "That's very flirty, but more like something for down the road." Or, "Sorry, I don't do naked pics, but here's a little something to whet your appetite," and insert a funny sexual gif. Or you might say, "Message received, here's what I can do for you," and insert a picture of your big toe. Now, expressing your boundaries with poise and decorum, and maybe even a little bit of humor and sass, subconsciously communicates that you value yourself and you are worth pursuing in a committed relationship, not just a short-term fling. Someone who really wants you will adore your high self-respect. Now, on the other hand, there is a more extreme version of this where right off the bat they send you a dick pic or a shirtless pic while you're still in the getting to know you phase. If they're doing this, it's usually for one of two reasons. Number one, they're not actually taking you or the possibility of a relationship with you very seriously and they're only interested in one thing. Or number two, they think that they're putting their best foot forward and this is how you attract a partner. If it's the first situation, you definitely don't want to engage with this person anymore. If it's the second scenario, this person is very likely suffering with low self-esteem and struggling with significant insecurities that are likely to cause conflict down the road. Overall, if you get a premature sexual advance, be charming while setting a boundary and letting them know that you're not ready, but you're not ultimately opposed. Number 2, coming on really strong in the beginning, aka love bombing. Maybe you've just started dating someone and the sparks fly initially. There seems to be the seeds of potential between you, and perhaps something significant could grow. You're open to the possibility. Sure, why not follow it and see what happens? Then, suddenly, they turn up the volume to full blast. The text messages come nonstop. They start professing divine providence and feeling as if you're just meant to be together. At first, maybe you feel a sense of apprehension or distrust. How could they possibly feel that way about you so quickly? Then out of nowhere, the attention stops, and it's like a record scratch, and the constant text messaging comes to a grinding halt. Why does that happen? Well, individuals who love bomb typically experience a very active fantasy life. They often have very vivid picture and script for what they think the ideal relationship would look and feel like. One that would fill them up and make them happy and connect them to themselves. And when they find someone that meets an approximation to that, they feel enthralled and a powerful sense of urgency, compelling them to secure that relationship, often through most dramatic means. Now, once a person becomes an active participant in this dramatic play, however, rather than just responding to the cues of the love-bombing director, the fantasy necessarily needs to adjust to accommodate to the reality of a real person. Now, because of this, online dating and long-distance relationships are a hotbed for love bombers. Plenty of mental, emotional, and geographical distance to fill up with a fantasy of reality for longer periods of time. In essence, these folks are in love with the idea of being in love. They are not interested in a real relationship. They're just interested in living out the fantasy for as long as it can last. Do not let them set the tone. And if someone thinks that you're mean because you want to go slow and they want to go from 0 to 100 in the first 3 weeks, it is not worth the headache because you'll just wind up participating in a projected scenario. Number 3, scripted text. For people who really like words of affirmation, you are going to have to be super careful of this particular trap. Here's a few examples. I feel on top of the world when I hold you in my arms. You bring the best vibe to my life and I can't stop thanking you for always being my motivation every day. If I don't say it enough, always remember you are my happily ever after. I can't wait to call you mine for a lifetime. I love you so much. I wonder if love is worth fighting for. When I think about you, then I'm ready for war to protect and to have you by my side. Now this might sound like music to your ears, but I hate to burst your bubble. I copied and pasted these from a porn site. If someone comes on strong like this, using overly romantic and flowery language that reads as somewhat contrived and as if it were written on a sunny day while lazing on the British rolling countryside in 1890, that is a huge red flag. It is very likely to be for one of 3 reasons. Number 1, they're baiting you. Number 2, they have low self-confidence, so they have to copy and paste from a porn site. Or number 3, they're in love with the idea of being in love. They are likely to also be sending you a few other red flag text messages as well. And if that is the case, I'd have you think long and hard before continuing that conversation. Number 4, the good old-fashioned booty call. Late night text messages that are basically fishing to see if you'll be willing to spontaneously come over and have sex are booty calls. They do this to test your boundaries and to see if they can have some fun with you without the responsibility of being fully committed. If you want casual, no strings attached, this is the perfect person to do it with. If you want something more meaningful, don't respond to the late night text messages. Wait until the morning and then say, "Hey, I just saw your text." FYI, as a rule, I don't respond to text messages that late at night. If you'd like to get together, I'd love to hear your ideas for a date this weekend. Curious to see what you'll come up with. Now, if they bail, they're interested in only one thing. If they decide to pursue you, they may still be interested in only one thing, but they're intrigued by the conquest. If you are interested, you'll need to be patient and see if they really have an upstanding character, or if they are aroused by the conquest and that's about it. In this case, time will tell. Number 5, avoiding a phone conversation. If you're texting with someone in a romantic way, it's because you want to meet them and eventually start a relationship. Someone who's avoiding having a phone conversation already can't give you the time of day. That's a big red flag that either they imagine you are going to play a very restricted and minimal role in their life, or they're not actually interested in connecting with you at all. Okay, so those are the first 5 sample texts and text messaging behaviors to watch out for. I just want to pause here for a moment and ask, do any of these sound familiar? Have you experienced any of these types of text messages or texting behavior? And if you have, I'd love it if you'd share your experiences in the comments below. Okay, let's move on to number 6. Number 6, they avoid setting a date. Now, maybe they're okay with getting on the phone with you, but they still avoid setting a date to meet in person. If that's the case, they're not really interested. They want to enjoy the attention and the validation, or perhaps the distraction, of the verbal back and forth on text messaging, but they're not interested in spoiling the fantasy with reality. If you express some frustration or impatience, they may try to stave you off by setting a date, but then they'll promptly cancel it because of some sob story or a totally viable reason. Then the conversation may continue as before until you try to reschedule. If you are a dog with a bone, it's likely they're going to ghost you after this, and that's actually really good information for you. So in this case, I recommend being a dog with a bone. Unless they schedule a date and stick to it, delete them. If they do schedule a date and cancel it again, delete them. Number 7 is deflecting from direct questions. This is when someone avoids giving you details about their life and tries to keep you talking about yourself. It might sound like, "Wow, what a great question. I'm so impressed with the way you think. I've never met anyone as beautiful and as challenging as you. That really makes me excited. Do you feel it too?" This is very shady behavior, and it's likely that they don't actually want you to know them. Again, they're engaging in a fantasy, and it is supplying them with some kind of validation or arousing stimulation. The quickest way to cut through this kind of BS is to call them out on it. Don't let them deflect from the question. Don't think to yourself, "Oh, I guess I'll let them tell me in their own time." Unless you're asking about their grief over the death of their mother, basic questions surrounding someone's life are fundamental to getting to know them and feeling safe enough to meet them in person. It is entirely reasonable to ask somebody about their work life or if they have any siblings, and it is entirely unreasonable if they do not offer a direct answer. That is a huge red flag, and I would quickly put them on your back burner, if not delete them altogether. Number 8, the overuse of laughter and emojis. Now, emojis should be used in moderation and are really reserved for flirting or conveying a feeling of friendliness or breeziness in conversation. The use of too many emojis or an overuse of laughter or LOLs can indicate insecurity and low confidence, or sarcasm and dismissal or evasion. Now, one caveat to this, however, is it could be different based on age group. So people in their 20s and maybe even their early 30s are more familiar with using text messaging and emojis as a regular style of communication. Individuals in their 40s and 50s are still more likely to use text messaging as a way to set up a real date as opposed to genuinely communicating and learning about each other. I would be more likely to give the benefit of the doubt to someone in their 40s or older because they may awkwardly be trying to communicate with a medium that they're not really familiar with and don't quite understand the nuances of. Someone in their 20s or even their early 30s, however, I would draw a harder line with, for two reasons. Number one, fluency in emojis means that they can also depict unconscious behavior through them. It's kind of like when you meet someone in person and they're really nervous and they kind of laugh nervously. It's an unconscious thing that betrays their insecurities. So with text messaging, this could look like, "Hey, if you're not too busy, you should come out with us, LOL?" ? Now, in this case, the LOL at the end of the statement gives the impression that you're half joking. So it's like using laughter to soften a potential rejection. It might seem like a minor thing, but you'd be surprised at how much it can indicate about the sender's disposition, their degree of desperation, and even their lack of self-knowledge. They are expressing confusion instead of sincerity or confidence. And for people who are fluent in emojis or using LOL for everything, they may express these little unconscious slips without realizing it through text message. Now, the second reason is that someone who is fluent in emojis can also express sarcasm and dismissal with their emoji use, and that's unacceptable. For example, if you see someone using emojis instead of words as a default response to your flirtations, it can be a way of throwing you off kilter with a subtle form of sarcasm or dismissal, which in its worst form can be a form of nonverbal negging. Overall, my grandfather used to say that sarcasm is the lowest form of wit, and I think that holds true even if it's through emojis. Number 9 is they text you again before you can respond. Now, if you have not responded to their text message, and their question requires an immediate response because of a deadline or the nature of the inquiry, that's one thing. If you allow 24 hours to go by before responding to somebody's text message that you are mid-conversation with, that's actually rude, and you might expect that they will message you again. If someone texts you during the day while you're at work and they immediately send you a barrage of messages before you can respond, most of which are demanding an explanation for why you're not responding, even though you told them that you would be unavailable during your work hours, that's a huge red flag. It suggests that they have a lot of anxiety, are prematurely preoccupied with you, concerned with control, and struggle to respect boundaries. It also suggests that they don't have their own life and things that they need to do for themselves, which means that already you're not really on the same page. Number 10, they text you too much throughout the day. Now, similar but slightly different, maybe you're responding to their text messages because you don't want to appear rude, but it seems like they want to have constant communication throughout the day and you can't seem to catch a break. In this case, you need to set some boundaries and limits with them surrounding what times of day you are available to chat and when you need to be focused on doing other things. Now, if they respect that, keep them around. If they get offended or pouty and try to guilt you by calling you mean, that's a red flag that they may use emotional manipulation to get attention and to get their way, and I would politely bow out of that situation. Now, number 11 is when they text you, miss you, or hey. Unless these messages are coming from a longtime friend or family member, or someone that you see all the time and you know that they're just checking in with you, these are like the ultimate breadcrumbing text messages that are fishing for some kind of response or reaction from you. The person sending this is basically wondering to themselves, what is the maximum gain for the least amount of effort that I can put in here? So in other words, you're being baited. And if these messages come from someone that had love bombed you before or came on strong and then backed off, it's likely they are trying to stir the pot so that you will carry the conversation and make all the effort to fill in the gaps. This provides a sense of affirmation and validation that you still think about them, that they are important to you, and that they are still in control. And you are still an option down the line if they decide they want to play with you and they don't have any better options. Do not fall into this trap. Even if this is someone that you had been obsessing over, and especially if you haven't heard from them in a long time, I would just ignore it, block the number, scream into a pillow, and move on. Now, the last one, number 12, is negging. Negging is an act of emotional manipulation whereby a person makes a deliberately backhanded compliment or otherwise flirtatious remark to another person to undermine their confidence and make them think that they have been dismissed as a viable option in order to increase their need of the manipulator's approval. The term was coined and prescribed mostly by pickup artists and is usually discussed when targeting women, but this can go both ways. So it might sound like, I usually really dislike short hair on women. They're not my type, but you wear it well. In fact, surprisingly, I find myself attracted to you. Or, I don't usually date men unless they're making 7 figures, but you seem nice and I might be willing to make an exception for big guns like that. Just, ew. Don't get caught up in a spin cycle like this because it oozes with inauthenticity and viewing relationships like a competitive game fought with power dynamics. It's going to be a royal headache and you do not need that. So there you go. You now have the tools at your disposal to discern genuine, high-quality partners from people that just want to play games or live in a fantasy world, the ability to define and recognize which of the 3 distinct phases of breadcrumbing you might have fallen into, and the ability to recognize 12 specific red flag text messages or texting behaviors that will save you a ton of time, energy, and heartache. Now, one last thing I would add here is that, of course, there are exceptions to every rule, and we are all human beings. So remember to approach dating with a tender and compassionate heart and know that most people are trying their best. And when in doubt, follow your heart and your intuition. And whatever happens, there is bound to be a good lesson in it for you either way. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this content, please like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more. And I look forward to seeing you next week.